Here's something nobody tells you about shadow work. You don't need years of therapy or expensive retreats. You don't need to wait until you're ready or healed enough. You need 20 minutes, a piece of paper, and the courage to meet the parts of yourself you've been avoiding your entire life, tonight, right now. I know because I spent years running from mine. Meditation to escape the anger. Manifestation to bypass the pain. Love and light affirmations to paint over the rage. But here's what changed everything for me. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your unintegrated power that's been waiting in the dark, holding the keys to who you really are. Today, I'm sharing the 5 exercises that cracked me open and put me back together. Not the pretty Instagram version of shadow work, the real thing. The kind that makes you shift in your chair because it's actually working. By the end of this video, you'll have met parts of yourself you didn't even know existed. Let me be completely honest with you. For years, I thought shadow work meant becoming some dark, mysterious person who burned sage and spoke in riddles. But your shadow isn't some evil twin hiding in your psyche. It's simply the parts of yourself you learned to hide, reject, or push away because someone told you they weren't acceptable. The parts you've been at war with your whole life. I thought I was completely healed. Meditation teacher, spiritual coach, the whole thing, until I met my rage during a grocery store meltdown. That's when I realized I wasn't healed. I was just well-behaved. Here's something beautiful about nighttime. Your defenses are down. Your shadow speaks loudest when the world gets quiet and you can't busy yourself with distractions anymore. That's why you feel different at 2 a.m. than you do at 2 p.m. Evening is when your soul does its deepest work, when integration happens naturally. And honestly, the longer you wait to have this conversation with yourself, the louder these parts get. They're not going anywhere. They're just going to keep showing up in your triggers, your patterns, your middle-of-the-night thoughts, until you finally turn around and say hello. Before we dive in, let me give you permission for something radical. No one else needs to see this work. This isn't for your journal that your partner might read, or your therapist, or your spiritual community. This is between you and the parts of yourself that have been waiting in the wings. You have permission to feel whatever comes up without immediately trying to fix it, heal it, or make it prettier. Your soul doesn't speak Sanskrit. It speaks truth. And tonight, we're going to listen. Exercise number 1 will surprise you. It's the one thing you do every day, but never pay attention to. So here's your first exercise. And I call it your emotional X-ray, because it's going to show you exactly what's hiding beneath the surface of your everyday reactions. Tonight's question is beautifully simple. What pissed me off today? Not what made you slightly annoyed, what actually triggered you. What made your chest tighten, your jaw clench, your inner voice start ranting? I want you to grab that piece of paper and write down 3 moments from today where you felt genuinely triggered. Could be the person who cut you off in traffic, your coworker who interrupted you in the meeting, or that Instagram post that made you want to throw your phone. Don't analyze it yet. Don't try to be spiritual about it. Just notice. Just write. Because here's the thing. I had my biggest breakthrough doing exactly this exercise. I was standing in the grocery store, watching this woman arguing loudly with the cashier about expired coupons. And I felt this rage bubble up in me. Not annoyance, pure rage. And I thought, what is wrong with me? Why do I care so much about a stranger's coupons? That question changed everything. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Your biggest triggers are pointing directly at your disowned parts. The things that make you angriest in other people, those qualities live inside you too. You just buried them so deep you can't see them anymore. That woman with the expired coupons? I was judging her for being dramatic and entitled. But when I got honest, really honest, I realized I was exactly like her. I just expressed my entitlement in more socially acceptable ways. I was the person who sent passive-aggressive emails when things didn't go my way, who huffed and sighed when service was slow, who felt like the world owed me something but was too nice to say it out loud. Here's another example that might hit close to home. You know those people you judge for being attention seekers, the ones who post too much on social media, who always have drama, who make everything about them? That judgment is showing you your own unmet need for recognition, for being seen, for mattering. You've just learned to hide it better. So here's what you're going to do with those 3 triggers you wrote down. For each one, I want you to ask yourself this uncomfortable question. How am I like this person? How do I do this exact same thing, maybe just in a different way? And then, this is where the magic happens. I want you to find the gift in that shadow quality, because every single trait you've rejected about yourself has a gift hidden inside it. The attention seeker you judge, their gift is knowing how to take up space, how to celebrate themselves, how to ask for what they need. The dramatic person, their gift is emotional honesty, the courage to feel deeply, to not pretend everything is fine when it's not. Your darkness isn't your enemy. It's your unintegrated power. It's the part of you that got shamed into hiding, but never actually went away. It's been waiting in the shadows, holding pieces of your wholeness hostage until you're brave enough to claim them back. If this exercise is making you squirm, if you're thinking, "No way, I'm nothing like that person," I want you to breathe and feel that resistance. That discomfort is your shadow knocking on the door. And here's what I've learned. Comfort zones are where shadows hide. The more uncomfortable this feels, the more important it is. You're not broken for having these parts. You're human for having them. And you're brave for finally looking. Exercise number 2 goes even deeper, into the stories you tell yourself that keep you small and safe, but far from who you really are. Now we're going deeper. I call this the power behind the pain, because we're about to uncover the hidden power you've been giving away through your victim stories. Tonight's practice is going to feel uncomfortable, and I need you to trust me here. Pick one area of your life where you feel genuinely stuck or victimized. Maybe it's your career, your relationships, your family situation. Now write this. I'm stuck because, and let yourself rant. Because my boss doesn't see my value. Because men always leave. Because my parents messed me up. Because people don't understand me. Then write, but the truth is, and see what comes up. This second sentence is where your power lives. Here's what I discovered about myself that changed everything. Victim stories are your shadow's way of avoiding your own power. They keep you small and safe, but they also keep you stuck. I was addicted to my poor me story for years. Poor me, I grew up with an alcoholic father. Poor me, I attract unavailable partners. Poor me, nobody understands how sensitive I am. And you know what? All of those things were true. But they were also my excuse to never fully show up, never risk real failure, never own my full power. Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just scared of your own power. So here's the question that's going to crack you open. How does staying stuck serve me? Because if you're honest, really honest, there's always a payoff to staying small. Maybe staying stuck means you don't have to risk being seen and rejected. Maybe it means people feel sorry for you and give you attention. Maybe it means you never have to find out what you're actually capable of, which is terrifying. Find that hidden payoff. Own the choice you're making. Because the moment you realize you're choosing your stuckness, you also realize you can choose something else. Your soul doesn't want you to be a victim. It wants you to be whole. And wholeness includes owning your power, even when it's scary. Exercise number 3 might make you cry, and that's exactly the point. We're going to have a conversation with the part of yourself you've been at war with your entire life. This next exercise I call your inner child's first love letter, because you're about to give the rejected parts of yourself what they've been desperately waiting for, your attention, your acceptance, your love. Think of one quality about yourself you've always hated. Maybe it's your neediness, your anger, your sensitivity, your selfishness. The thing you've spent your whole life trying to fix, hide, or get rid of. Tonight, you're going to write a letter to that part of yourself. I'll share mine with you. I wrote to my neediness, the part of me that wanted too much attention, too much reassurance, too much love, the part I was most ashamed of. And what happened in that letter changed my relationship with myself forever. Start your letter like this. Dear rejected part, I've been hiding you because, and then tell the truth. Tell them why you've been ashamed, why you've pushed them away, what you were afraid people would think. Then, and this is where the magic happens, let that part write back to you. Put your pen to paper and let them respond. They've been waiting your whole life for this conversation. When I let my neediness write back to me, she said, I just wanted to know I mattered. I just wanted to feel safe to want things. And I realized this wasn't my weakness. This was my heart, raw and open and brave enough to keep reaching for love. Here's what will blow your mind. Every single part you've rejected has a gift waiting for you. Your neediness is actually your capacity for deep connection, your ability to be vulnerable, your courage to reach for love. Your anger is your inner compass, your boundary setter, your protector of what matters most. Your selfishness is your ability to know what you want and go after it. Your sensitivity is your superpower to feel the world deeply and hold space for others' pain. What you resist persists. What you embrace transforms. The parts you've been at war with aren't your enemies. They're your exiled gifts waiting to come home. So take a breath and say this to that rejected part. Welcome home. I've been at war with you, but you were never the enemy. You were just trying to love me the only way you knew how. Exercise number 4 reveals the shadow pattern that's been secretly running your entire life, showing up in every relationship, every job, every choice you make. Now we're going to play detective with your life, and I call this the invisible puppet master, because we're about to uncover the unconscious patterns that have been pulling your strings for years. Look at your relationships, your work situations, your friendships. What keeps repeating? Maybe you always attract partners who need fixing. Maybe you're always the one giving more than you receive. Maybe you keep ending up in jobs where you feel undervalued or friendships where you're the therapist. Write down the pattern without judgment. Just observe. I'll share mine. I was addicted to saving people. Every relationship, every friendship, every job, I was the rescuer, the helper, the one who could fix everyone's problems. I thought I was just being loving, but really, I was running from my own need to be needed. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your patterns aren't random. They're your unconscious shadow running the show, trying to heal old wounds or prove something that was never true in the first place. Ask yourself, what am I trying to prove with this pattern? For me, I was trying to prove I was valuable, that I mattered, that I was worth keeping around. Because deep down, I still believed I was the little girl whose dad left, whose love wasn't enough to make him stay. Most of our patterns are us trying to prove our childhood wounds wrong, trying to control outcomes we couldn't control then, trying to earn love we should have received freely. So here's the question that will set you free. What would I do if I had nothing to prove? If you didn't need to prove you were valuable, lovable, worthy, strong, perfect, what would you choose? Who would I be without this story? Without the story that you're not enough, that love is earned, that you have to perform to be wanted. The answer to that question? That's who you've always been. Underneath all the patterns, all the performing, all the trying. That's your authentic self. The one who doesn't need to prove anything because they already know they're whole. Your patterns aren't your prison. They're your curriculum. They've been showing you exactly what needs healing, exactly what wants to be integrated, exactly what's ready to be transformed. The final exercise will blow your mind. It's about the shadow you inherited, the patterns that didn't even start with you but have been running your life anyway. This final exercise I call the bloodline truth, because we're about to look at the shadows you didn't even create, the ones you inherited, the ones that have been passed down through generations like invisible DNA. Think about your family, parents, grandparents, siblings. What qualities do you judge most harshly in them? Maybe it's your mother's anxiety, your father's anger, your grandmother's martyrdom. Write them down. Now here's the part that's going to sting. How are you exactly like them? And just as revealing, how are you the complete opposite? Because often, being the opposite of someone is just another way of being controlled by them. Here's what changed everything for me. I spent years judging my mother's perfectionism, rolling my eyes at her need to have everything just right, her anxiety when things were messy, her inability to just relax. I was going to be different, spontaneous, easygoing, accepting of imperfection. But you know what I realized? I was still being controlled by her perfectionism. I was just expressing it as rebellion. My easygoing nature was actually rigid in its own way. I couldn't tolerate structure. I couldn't plan. I couldn't commit to anything because that felt too much like her. You carry your family's unhealed shadows in your cells, in your nervous system, in your unconscious patterns. And here's the beautiful, sacred truth. When you heal these patterns in yourself, you heal them backwards and forwards through your entire lineage. So here's your sacred work tonight. Forgive the shadow qualities in your family lineage, not because they were right, but because they were human. They were carrying shadows they inherited too, doing the best they could with unhealed wounds they didn't even know they had. Then own those same qualities in yourself without shame. You are your ancestors' wildest dreams and their deepest fears. You are their hope for healing, and their unfinished business made flesh. You're not just healing yourself tonight. You're healing your lineage. You're breaking cycles that have run for generations. You're setting your descendants free from patterns they don't even know they're carrying yet. So here's where I need to be completely honest with you. Tonight was just the beginning. Shadow work isn't a workshop you complete. It's a relationship you cultivate. It's not something you do once and check off your spiritual to-do list. These 5 exercises, they're your doorway, not your destination. Think of tonight as meeting your shadow for the first time, shaking hands with the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. But like any relationship worth having, it takes time, patience, and showing up even when it's uncomfortable. Your shadow has been waiting your whole life for this conversation. It's been knocking on your door through your triggers, your patterns, your midnight anxiety, your unexplainable anger. Tonight, you finally answered. You said, "I see you. I'm ready to know you." But here's what makes this sacred. Your shadow doesn't want to hurt you. It never did. It just wants to be witnessed, integrated, welcomed home. Every trigger you explored tonight, every pattern you recognized, every unloved part you wrote to, that's your soul calling you back to wholeness. The real transformation happens in the coming days and weeks, when you catch yourself mid-trigger and think, "Oh, there's my shadow showing me something." When you notice a pattern starting and choose differently. When you feel that familiar shame rising and remember, this is just another part of me asking to be loved. If you did even one of these exercises tonight, if you wrote down a single trigger, questioned one victim story, wrote one sentence to an unloved part, you're braver than most people will ever be. You just did what most humans spend their entire lives avoiding. Your courage doesn't just heal you. It gives other people permission to meet their own shadows too. So I want to know, which exercise surprised you most? Which one made you uncomfortable? Which one felt like coming home? Share below. Your truth might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to take their first step into wholeness.